Here is an animal that we often see as a simple predator, large, heavy, silent, and dangerous. But as science studies it more, it turns out that the story behind it is much more complicated. The saltwater crocodile is not just a reptile waiting for its prey. It is one of the most specialized ambush predators on the planet. And the reason is not just because of its powerful bite, but also because of the way it senses its entire surroundings. At first glance, its body seems to be all armor. Thick skin, tough scales, a heavy body that can reach over 6 meters in length. The largest officially measured was Lolong in the Philippines, over 6 meters long and weighing more than 1,000 kilograms. But beneath its tough exterior, there is an extremely sensitive sensory system. The small black dots around the jaw and body of the crocodile are not just part of the skin. These are called integumentary sensory organs, and they play a very important role in their survival. These help the crocodile sense even the slightest movement in the water, even the smallest ripple, even the faintest vibration, even those almost invisible to the eye. Before we start, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. It means a lot to us content creators. Thank you. And now let's begin. While the crocodile is submerged in water and barely moving, it's not resting. It monitors every wave, every movement of fish, every disturbance on the surface of the water. It can sense them. That's why it doesn't need to clearly see its prey to know where it is. It also doesn't need to move right away. Sometimes waiting is enough. Quiet, barely moving. And when the right moment comes, a quick attack and it's over. Even more surprising, despite its thick and tough skin, the crocodile is extremely sensitive to touch. There are parts of its body that can sense even the slightest pressure changes in the water. It can combine two things that are rarely seen together in nature: protection and precision. Aside from that, they also have excellent vision, especially in low light, allowing them to hunt at night, in muddy water, in places where visibility is almost zero. When you combine night vision, pressure detection, stealth movement, and extremely powerful bite force, you get one of the most effective predators on Earth. But perhaps their most underrated ability is patience. They don't rely on speed. They don't chase far. They prefer to wait quietly, not moving, almost like they're just part of the river. And that's when they're most dangerous, because before you even notice they're there, they've already sensed you long before that. In the rivers, estuaries, mangroves, and coastal wetlands of the Indo-Pacific, the saltwater crocodile has been using the same strategy for millions of years. And even now, it's still effective. While the climate, landscape, and the animals around them change, they still remain at the top of the food chain. It's not because they haven't changed, but because they are so well adapted to their environment. When we look at a crocodile, it's like we're looking into the past. But maybe it's more accurate to think that we're looking at a predator that has been perfected by evolution for a long time. Silent, patient, and always listening to the water. And the saltwater crocodile's perfection as a predator doesn't end with its stealth and sensing abilities. It has another weapon that more directly shows its power: its bite. According to biomechanical studies, the saltwater crocodile has one of the strongest measured bite forces of any living animal, reaching over 3,700 pounds per square inch. These measurements are documented and have been repeatedly tested in controlled scientific settings. For comparison, the great white shark is also estimated to reach around 4,000 pounds per square inch. But this is only an estimate and not as solid as the direct measurements obtained from the crocodile. This strength does not simply come from size alone. There is a special arrangement of muscles in the crocodile's head that generates tremendous force when its jaws close. Two major muscle groups are mainly responsible for this: the temporalis and pterygoid muscles, which are positioned in a sort of cross pattern inside the skull. When they act together, it's like a hydraulic system that suddenly slams the mouth shut, fast, direct, and almost impossible to stop. But even scarier than the strength of the bite is how it's used. When a crocodile's jaws close, it doesn't just let go. Its teeth are conical in shape, not for chewing, not for cutting, but for stabbing and holding. They're also curved backward, so once the prey is inside, it just gets trapped even more. And if the catch is too big to swallow whole, that's when one of their most famous hunting behaviors comes in, the so-called death roll. This is a rapid spin of the whole body while still holding onto the prey. They use this to tear the flesh and break down larger prey into more manageable pieces. This move isn't something they learn as they grow older. According to studies on crocodilian behavior, even baby crocodiles can immediately perform the death roll on their very first catch. This indicates that it is a hardwired instinct from birth. When the spinning starts, the entire body rotates along its longitudinal axis, and with the powerful grip of its jaws, the whole movement becomes like a mechanical tearing system. It's a combination of force and rotation that can separate flesh and bone. In the natural world, this is one of the most efficient ways for an ambush predator to process food. No excess, no wasted movement, pure function, pure survival. One of the most controversial and most interesting aspects of the saltwater crocodile is not just its strength, but also the reports about possible cooperative behavior. In most animals, coordinated hunting or teamwork is rare. Usually you see this in wolves, dolphins, and some primates. But in reptiles, especially in crocodiles, this has long gone unrecognized as genuine behavior. Let's go back to older reports. In the late 1890s, there was a Russian naturalist who observed a strange scene in Papua New Guinea. According to records, there was a group of saltwater crocodiles that seemed to be acting together while hunting fish. A larger crocodile was making strong tail slaps in the water, pushing the fish toward the shallower part of the river. While this was happening, smaller crocodiles were waiting in the shallows. When the fish reached the right spot, they quickly moved in and attacked. They are not simply reflex-driven predators. They have the ability to adapt to the situation, wait, and take advantage of environmental timing. And this is where the field becomes more interesting. The saltwater crocodile is one that doesn't just rely on strength, but also on observation, timing, and possibly a higher level of behavioral flexibility than many expect. The saltwater crocodile is one of the few reptiles that can survive in both freshwater and saltwater environments. Most reptiles are limited to just one type of water, either river or sea. But the saltwater crocodile can move from rivers, estuaries, all the way to the open ocean. There are reports of crocodiles swimming hundreds of kilometers from the coast, and they've also been recorded in coastal areas venturing close to large marine predators like bull sharks. The big question in science back then was how they were able to do this. Because most animals' bodies have difficulty maintaining the balance of water and salt in such different environments. In freshwater, water enters the body due to osmosis. In saltwater, on the other hand, water leaves the body and salt levels rise. When salt levels rise, both situations are dangerous if the body can't control them. Other marine animals have specialized systems for this. Sea turtles have salt glands near their eyes, while some sharks have salt-regulating organs inside their bodies. For crocodiles, this was a mystery for a long time. They didn't find typical salt glands in the eyes or internal organs until a more thorough examination revealed that their salt-excreting glands are inside the tongue. There are small pores there that release excess salt in the form of sodium and chloride. The excess salt is expelled through the mouth and nostril area. That's how they maintain their internal balance even when the water they live in changes. A study in 1975 showed that their blood salt levels remained stable even when placed in freshwater or seawater at around 304 millismoles. This means they have a highly efficient internal system that can adjust to extreme changes in the environment. They can hunt in rivers and cross the open ocean without any problem. It's a rare adaptation that gives them a wider range than most reptiles. When the saltwater crocodile becomes a threat to humans or livestock, wildlife authorities have two main solutions: kill it or relocate it. Relocation is preferred to avoid conflict. Usually the crocodile is captured and released. Sometimes transportation even involves a helicopter. and it is taken more than 100 kilometers away from its original territory. In theory, the problem should be solved. But that's not what actually happens. There are documented studies using satellite tracking that show relocated crocodiles return to their former territory. In one case, a large male crocodile was relocated about 99 kilometers. After staying at the release site for almost 2 weeks, he returned and found his original area again in about 2 weeks as well. In another case, a crocodile was relocated 57 kilometers, and after 2 weeks, it also returned to its original location in just a few days. But the most remarkable case is an even farther example. A crocodile was relocated 126 kilometers to the other side of Cape York Peninsula. He had no familiar landmarks, no previous routes. He stayed in the new place for 3 months. Then, he started to return. In about 20 days, he traveled more than 400 kilometers around the peninsula back to the exact spot where he was first captured. This kind of navigation is not yet fully understood by science. According to researchers, it could be a combination of magnetic field detection, environmental cues, and olfactory sensors. There is also a possibility of solar or celestial orientation, but there is still no final consensus. What's important is that observations clearly show they can form a mental representation of their territory that spans hundreds of kilometers. This means they're not just following the water or the current, they have an internal map of their surroundings. It's a spatial memory they use to return to a specific place. And in the case of the saltwater crocodile, this kind of navigation isn't just for survival. They also use this to return to their hunting grounds and establish territory. This shows a higher level of spatial intelligence than what is usually expected from reptiles. There are stories in the field of wildlife research that further show how much more complex the behavior of crocodiles is than what people usually think. One example often mentioned in discussions is an observation from reptile researchers in Australia, in which the position of a caretaker inside a crocodile enclosure was gradually changed over several months. According to reports linked to the field observations of researchers like Dr. Brian Fry, the change was not sudden, but gradual. It was so subtle that people didn't notice it in their daily routine. But from the perspective of a predator, every small movement in the environment could have meaning. In this kind of interpretation, the crocodile is not just waiting. It is observing, assessing movement patterns. And when a target repeatedly takes the same route or appears at the same time, it becomes predictable. In many documented incidents in northern Australia, one of the most important safety reminders is to avoid routines when in crocodile habitats. That's why you'll see warnings there reminding people not to use the same swimming or camping spot at the same time of day. And because of investigations by wildlife authorities, it's been noticed that in some fatal encounters, the victim often has a consistent pattern. Same place, same time, repeatedly. In this kind of situation, observation becomes an advantage for the crocodile. This isn't a random attack, but an ambush based on learned behavior and timing. This is where the deeper aspect of their survival strategy comes in: patience and energy efficiency. The crocodile has a very low metabolic rate. Compared to many mammals that can wait for a long time without quickly running out of energy, they can stay still in the water for long periods. They barely move while staying focused on their surroundings. This is unlike mammal predators that need to eat more frequently and move actively. For crocodiles, the strategy is the opposite: less movement, more waiting, maximum efficiency. There are also species of crocodilians that can survive for a long time without eating for a long time because of this kind of energy system. So when you combine patience, pattern recognition, and the ability to wait for the right timing, they become one of the most efficient ambush predators in the world. And in the end, the more important question that comes out of these studies is not just how smart they are at hunting, but how much they can observe and adapt to the behavior of other creatures in their environment. The communication of saltwater crocodiles starts even before they hatch. Inside the egg, the embryos make small sounds. According to studies on crocodilian behavior, they use this to coordinate hatching so that they come out almost at the same time, which increases their survival rate. This sound has another important use. It calls their mother. When the mother crocodile hears the vocal signals from the nest, she digs up the eggs and brings out the hatchlings. As they grow, their calls become more complex. Baby crocodiles make distress and contact calls, while adults use growls, grunts, and hisses for warning and territorial signals. They also have underwater signals through bubbles and vibrations, as well as loud head slaps and jaw claps that create pressure waves in the water. Overall, crocodiles have a multi-layered communication system using sound, movement, and vibration that is important for survival, coordination, and protection of their species. This is evidence that crocodiles have an early form of learning even while still inside the egg. In a 2020 study, crocodile eggs were exposed to a specific chemical flavor, such as strawberry. After hatching, the hatchlings preferred food with the same chemical taste. This means they have the ability to develop chemical memory even before they come out of the egg. Aside from this, crocodiles can also produce infrasound. These are sounds that humans cannot hear but can be felt as vibrations. In water, these low-frequency vibrations can travel far and may be used for communication between crocodiles within river or swamp systems. There are theories that they use internal organs, like the sacculus, to detect these kinds of vibrations. This means they have a hidden layer of communication that we don't directly hear, but can only sense in the surroundings. Overall, it turns out that crocodiles have a combination of learning and vibration-based communication that is more advanced than what science has long believed.